let me show you how we can improve battery life on a Nothing Phone 3. So first of all, what we're gonna do is open settings and we're gonna start with battery. Of course, we have something that is battery saver, something that is called battery saver, which is nothing unusual really, and you probably know what it does, but I just have to remind you all that if you use battery saver, then you can get extra battery time before you start charging again. So if you are in a desperate situation where you have to keep the battery for as long as possible because you cannot really start charging now, then of course you can use battery saver. Over here we can also read what it does. And you can also create a schedule for battery save as well based on the battery percentage. Now, besides that, we have adaptive battery, which can be enabled, which should be enabled actually, I believe. There is also the sleep standby optimization, and we also have battery health, where we have two options, smart charging mode and custom charging mode. It is recommended to use one of them. Most likely you probably want to stick with smart charging mode. However, it is actually recommended to use this custom charging mode. But I have to say that it can be quite inconvenient to use for some people, and I fully understand that. That's why you can just use smart charging mode instead. However, if possible, use this one, this custom charging mode, and this mode is pretty simple. What it does is it allows you to charge your battery only up to 70, 80, or 90% of your choice. And the reason why you should use this option is because most batteries nowadays on newest smartphones are built and optimized in such a way that the ideal percentage for these batteries are 20 to 80. So in other words, you start charging your battery when you have 20% left and you stop charging at 80 or so. And this option of course allows you to not exceed the 80% mark, or of course any other option. So yeah, like I said, it can be inconvenient to use, so you won't be able to charge it to 100%, and of course that extra 20% sometimes can be quite useful, but if possible, try to stick with it. Alright, so besides that, there are some other options that can be toggled in order to extend the battery and also slow down the aging process. So the first thing that I want to mention is in location. And in location, we're gonna go to location services, and what you can do is check Wi-Fi scanning and Bluetooth scanning. You want to turn off these options. They actually use battery quite a bit, and you don't want them to have these options enabled all the time. Of course, if there is any situation where the phone requires Wi-Fi scanning or Bluetooth scanning, then of course you will be asked to turn them on, and with a single button most likely you will be able to just turn it on, but remember to turn it off afterwards once you are done with the app or anything that requires Wi-Fi or Bluetooth scanning. However, most of the time, like I would say maybe 99% of your usage of your experience with your phone, you won't need these options to be enabled. Okay, so besides that, of course, such features as location, as NFC, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile data, and so on and so forth, these options also drain the battery. And ideally, you want to turn these options off, like the mobile data, like Wi-Fi, and so on and so forth, when you are not using them. So for example, right now I have Bluetooth enabled, and there is no reason for me to use Bluetooth right now because I don't have any Bluetooth device connected. I don't use any Bluetooth device right now, so there is no point of having Bluetooth enabled. Of course, you want to turn it back on when you want to use a Bluetooth device, naturally and obviously. But when you don't use it, just turn it off. This will help you extend the battery life quite a bit if you stick with everything, every option that can be disabled. So if you turn off mobile data when you are at home, or turn off Wi-Fi when you are not at home, and so on and so forth. So remember about these features. Besides that, what you can also do is go to lock screen settings, and over here of course we can find always on display, and this feature, while it is quite cool, it also drains the battery quite a bit, so you want to turn it off. This will definitely help you save the battery. And there are other stuff that also drain the battery quite a bit, like for example the glyph interface. While it is quite fun, if you have it enabled all the time, especially if we go to glyph toys. So over here you can have always on glyph toys. When you use this feature, then of course it will drain the battery quite a bit. While these are cool gimmicks, if you enable some of these features, then of course this will help you drain the battery quite a bit, and of course we don't want to do that. And I'm not saying that you should give up on every gimmick that we have on this phone. I'm just simply informing you what features drain the battery quite a bit. So whether you actually use them or not, if you disable them or keep using them, it's really up to you. And another thing that we want to do is go to display settings, because over here we can also find a bunch of different options that can help you save the battery and improve the battery life. For example, the adaptive brightness, the dark theme even, because if you actually disable dark theme, if you use the light theme or the light mode, then you will actually use a little bit more battery. I believe the difference is not that huge, but of course these things add up. So if you enable adaptive brightness and turn off and turn on dark theme and so on and so forth, then you will get more and more and more additional minutes on a single charging. And is there anything else? I believe, yeah. So obviously there's also the refresh rate. If you switch to standard and use 60 Hz, then you will save the battery as well. But of course, most likely we don't want to do that. I personally wouldn't ever do that because I want to have that smooth experience. And there is also the HDR display, which can also be toggled. And of course, if you turn it off, you will also reduce battery consumption, as we can even read over here that this option will increase battery usage. So yeah, so you can turn it off when you don't actually use HDR in a given moment. And yeah, I think I mentioned all of the most important things that we can find. Of course, if you have, for example, some sort of app for animated wallpapers, this can also drain your battery quite a bit. Apps that are running in the background, if you never close them, then of course they can drain the battery quite a bit as well. So you want to try to turn off and disable, close background apps that are running in the background all the time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If there is something that I missed that you think is quite useful for improving battery life, then of course share it in the comments so that everyone can use that tip. And that's all. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe.